Hello Age of Wonderites, welcome back to the Sorcerer edition of this How to Play series. Just before I go on, I will show I was rushing city production so that I could get a high level of building really fast to show off something for you guys. But it brought my happiness very far down. You can see I've hurried production 3 times in a row. And they're only there for a couple of turns, so our city happiness will increase pretty quickly. But you'll see here, Gaba is rebelling and rebels will spawn in 5 turns. Now as soon as we get that pop up, we do get a stack of rebels immediately. Next turn we won't have this, we won't have another stack spawned, but after 5 turns more will spawn. I just thought that was worth mentioning. So okay, let's get into the skill book and I'll show off the sorcerer stuff. We'll start off with combat spells. Sort by tier. Okay. So a lot of these things you're going to recognize if you've watched the How to Play series. So again, this is an instant spell. Magic Fist deals 21 physical damage at the cost of 12 mana and casting points. Starblades gives is a unit enchantment, and the unit receives Inflict Shocking and 1 electrical damage. Inflict Shocking applies to your melee and ranged attacks and has a chance to shock a unit. Shocked units lose 8 movement points for 2 turns, and it costs 5 mana. And it has no upkeep because it is a tactical combat buff. Another unit enchantment is a very powerful one. It's 80% physical protection, only for 2 turns because it's such a huge increase, and it costs 20. Harmonizing Energy is one of the bigger heals in the game, but it does have one of the bigger costs. 30 heal and cannot affect boats, machines, or undead. Arcane Binding is an amazing ability, only available to the Sorcerer. Anything with the summoned or magical origin statistic, you have a chance of taking over that unit. But if it fails, then you're talking about being hindered, which is 50% movement reduction, and it only costs 20, so it's a very nice ability. Chain Lightning is very strong. You deal 18 electrical damage to the target that you choose, and then it will bounce up to 4 times to another enemy as long as they are 3 or less hexes away. And this means from the previous target, so you cannot bounce back to the guy you've just came from, but you can go to someone who was 2 bounces away in the chain. It costs 25 mana. Cosmic Spray. Now you're within a 1 hex area, so this hex, here, here, so everything around this hex gets affected. And you're dealing 4 physical, 4 poison, 4 shock, frost, fire, holy spirit, and electric. And these aren't all going to hit every unit in that radius, but it's based on a random chance. 15 mana, and that's why it's a little bit cheaper, because this looks like everything's going to take a lot of damage, anything in that hex radius, but it's a little bit more random. Static Sphere is a really nice buff. So you give it to a unit, and any time that unit gets attacked in melee, the attacker will receive 5 electrical damage, and also has a chance to be stunned. And stuns are brilliant because they can't move or attack or retaliate or anything like that. And every attack against that unit, abilities, range attack, etc., are all counted as flanking attacks. And that's the same for backstabs too. And you're also looking at 15 mana for this ability. Mass Stasis is kind of scary. It's an instant spell, and you attempt to immobilize all enemy units on the battlefield just for a turn, and if they are not immobilized, they lose 25% of their movement points for that turn. And it costs 20, very nice ability. Double Gravity, this is a really good combo ability. So it pulls all your flying units down to the ground. What that means is it practically deletes the ability flying. And if you think about abilities such as the Earth specialization ability called the Earthquake, it does not affect flying units. But with Double Gravity, because you put a big axe through flying, Earthquake will now affect all of the enemy flying units. And it's at the low cost of 15 mana. Static Electricity is also really nice. It's kind of OP. All of your own units will be statically charged and gain Static Shield. And that means when they're attacked, it's basically giving them Static Sphere. Very similar. It tells you what Static Sphere does here. So that's what you're doing. but it also debuffs all the enemy units with a minus 20% shock weakness. And if you think every time they attack you, they're not going to just take that 5 damage, they're also going to take 20% extra. Now, Chaos Rift is very scary. It's a brilliant ability. Basically, every one of your own turns, a random unit is summoned to fight for you. And 20 shock damage is dealt to 2 to 3 random enemy units. Excuse me. And the enemy units in a 1 hex radius around those units. So it deals a lot of damage to a lot of enemy units, especially if they're all clumped together. Now, let's see, we'll move on to global spells. And we're already sorted by tier, fantastic. Now, Glyphs of Warding. The currents deal 10 electrical damage to trespassers each turn they're within the city's domain. Basically, what that means is for every enemy within the buffed city's domain, they're going to take 10 magical electrical damage. Cost of 60 mana and 5 upkeep per turn. We'll go through all the units individually. So you've got Summon Wisp. Invoke Extraordinary Mount is a very interesting ability. So the way it works is you will choose a target. You summon, so you can only place it around your cities or around or on top of a hero. And what you're summoning is an item, and it's an egg. And you pick it up with a hero or courier it to a hero with an army. And then once it gets added to your hero's inventory, after 10 turns, the egg hatches and turns into a new type of item, which is a mount. The eggs are typically named, so you know you've got gold wyvern eggs or wyvern eggs, and it's going to mature, hatch into a gold wyvern, and it's cost 40 mana, no upkeep cost or anything like that, but it's a very, very unique and amazing ability. And also note that the eggs have a range of rarities, so you can have from more common ones such as Pegasi, or you know, some of your mythical ones like gold wyverns. There's another one of our summons. Now, Dread Omen is kind of a scary ability. So the city suffers minus 100 population growth, but also every unit belonging to the enemy that is within that domain will suffer 500 happiness, and that's huge. If they're already kind of low on morale, then you're going to those units have a 20% chance to start deserting. So it's kind of a nice ability, especially for a tier 2. But it does have quite a cost, which is 90 and also 9 per turn. Summon Fantastic Creature, again we'll come to these. Now this is why I kind of played on, because it was something I wasn't sure about. Now, target friendly city becomes immune to all city enchantments, and it costs 120 mana and 12 mana per turn. So I just put it on my own city and tried to buff it myself. And so do note that you cannot buff your own cities when you've given it Dome of Protection. It negates all buffs, including yours, your allies, and the enemies. Lightning Storm, kind of a scary ability, deals 15 damage to that target army. So every unit in that army is going to take 5 physical and 10 electrical damage. That's quite high for a non-combat instant spell. 80 cost though, so it's quite high. Enchanted Walls is very nice. Any unit going over your walls is going to take 8 electrical damage, but also has that chance to be stunned, and stunned again, can't move, can't do anything, but also every attack is a flanking attack. 180 mana and 18 upkeep per turn, which is quite high. Another one of our summons. Summoner's Aura is a very, very good ability. So all of the caster's summoned units of magical origin gain +2 defense and +4 resistance. And regeneration within the domain of the target city. And units with regeneration restore all of their hit points or their health at the start of the owner's turn. So you put this onto your city, and everything in that city is now much stronger. It costs 120 mana and has 12 upkeep per turn. Spell of Return's kind of nice, depending on the situation you're in. You can use it on any army, not just on ones with heroes. And think of this in 2 ways. One is to get an army out of harm. So if you've got, say, a scout and you're like, can't let that scout die, drop the spell on him and he'll come back to your city. Or if you think your city itself is under threat, you can cast a spell, bring back one of your big armies to defend the city. It does have quite a high cost, and you'll notice at the moment we only have 95, and I've researched all spells, so this is as high as we can get without doing any more research. But you do have buildings and upgrades that can increase this number. I'll try to remember anyway, show that off at the end of this video. Summon Eldritch Haruna. It's the tier 4 summoner monster, and it's an amazing creature. I'll again show off all the monsters just before we go on to the extra summoning cost, casting points abilities. So here's another one of the sorcerer abilities, and basically it gives the caster plus 50 casting points. It's a world enchantment, so it can be debuffed, and it has a monstrous cost, 660 mana, so it takes multiple turns to cast this. Also has a huge cost per turn, but it does let you cast so many extra spells that for a single combat, for example, and also summon more guys. Now then, let's see, so we're going to skip all of the sorceries. Arcane Study will give all your laboratories and observatories a plus 5 knowledge income. It means you can research things faster, and basically the more cities you have, the greater this empire upgrade is. Channeler, the unit has plus 5 casting points, so it's nice. And we start off with Channeler. That's a base ability for a sorcerer. Produce Apprentice, this is another one of our units. School of Teleportation. As a result of training, our support units receive projectile resistance and the phase ability. And if you have been watching the How to Play series, you will see how useful phase is. Phase costs 2 action points to use, and that means you only have 1 attack after using it. And if you teleport behind an enemy unit, they will turn to face you for that attack instead of counter-attacking. And then, so not only does your support unit not receive any damage, at least for that attack, but you also get to attack that unit who's just turned around for some extra flanking, so it's good. Now let's see. Oh, treasure sites and mana nodes within the Empire's domain will gain, or will provide plus 5 mana. And School of Enchantment. Let's see, where does this start? Support units gain the Inflict Stun ability, and stuns again are just fantastic for all the flanking damage you can do. Let's see. We'll go to all the sorcerer units. There we go. Sorcerer. And we'll just go down to other, so we just get the base units. Okay, so we can summon wisps, and I've went through these in my How to Play, but I'll do it again for anyone who hasn't seen. So you've got 60% physical protection, and you'll see there in the tooltip you've got incorporeal in brackets, so that means it comes from that ability. This originates from this ability, and it's inherent, so it's naturally part of the wisp. Whereas if we were to buff them, it would say from this spell. They also have 100% shock protection, and they are 40% weakness to blight. That's more than made up for with 60% physical protection, because not a lot has physical protection in the game, and it's very, very useful ability. They can float, which makes them an extremely useful scout, and they also have true sight, like most of the other scouts. Now, the reason that I consider this the best scout in the game is because of these two abilities. Phase lets you teleport on a long range. Only 2 abilities are extreme range. Phase will let you teleport behind an enemy unit. It costs 2 movement points, so 1 attack to attack the enemy. No retaliation, but if they do, you have static shield. And again, if you're attacked, the enemy takes 5 lightning damage and has a chance of being stunned, which is fantastic. Now this is made up for by the extremely low health, extremely low damage, and also the low defense. But overall, it's a fantastic unit. Now Phantasm Warrior has more health, and it has less resistance but more defense, deals more damage, also has Inflict Shocking, and anything that this unit attacks has a 7 potency chance of them losing 8 defense movement points. It also has a shield, so you're talking plus 2 defense from frontal attacks. Basically a frontal attack is a non-flanking attack. The unit floats and can also pass walls, so it can move through rocks and boulders and carts and of course walls too. We have 60% physical protection, and because this is a melee unit, 60% physical protection is very powerful, and 40% shock protection. Node Serpent is your next summon, and you're looking at very nice damage, very nice health, and extremely good defense stats. Also, you have that -8 movement points, and I'm pretty sure it's a 7 potency. It might be 9. Floating and shock protection. And because it's a monster, you've got all these extra buffs that you can give just monsters. Eldritch Haruna. Now, this is an extremely intimidating unit, not only in appearance but in stats. Now, practically, let's just say 100 health, 15 defense, and 13 resistance. Its melee attack deals 24 damage. That's huge. But shock breath deals more. So you're talking in a cone attack of 20 damage. Now, you can hit multiple units with this. But it doesn't end there. You also have Dominate. And Dominate will take over enemy units for 3 turns. But if it fails, the enemy takes 8 damage. And this is on a cooldown for 3 turns, so you can dominate multiple units in a game. But if the game ends and you haven't dominated any units, you don't get to keep any. But if you've dominated a unit by the end, you get to keep it. It's always nice. It has night vision. It also has fearsome. And basically, whenever a unit attacks a melee, attacks in melee against a unit with fearsome, they have a chance to be panicked. And panicked units will attempt to flee the battlefield if they are the attacking unit, or just to the edges of the battlefield if they are the defender. Strong will, so you get 100% holy protection, and you are immune to mind control, so you can't dominate anything with strong will. It floats, and it has 100% light and spirit protection. I always call spirit holy, it just seems right. And let's see, we also have the, well, we'll do human because they have more base stats. Okay, so the Apprentice is, I would say, one of the better support units in the game, just because of Fairy Fire. So you got 40 health, 9 defense, and 11 resistance, which is about normal, so you might be thinking, what's so good? But it's because Fairy Fire has 3 channels of attack, and flanking applies to each channel, so whenever you flank you're talking +2, +2, +2 each time, so that's actually 5 each time, which is 15 on a flank attack, which is huge. But it also has 3 tech abilities, so you can steal enchantment, and that's a ranged ability, so from long range you can steal enemy enchantments. You can mend magical beings, so that's a heal for your summons, which synergizes well, because everything else is, a sorcerer gets is a summon. And you can also dispel, and this is a touch ability. You have to be right next to the enemy, but you get rid of all buffs and debuffs, which is always handy. Also, you have True Sight and Mariner. True Sight means you can see invisible or concealed units, for example, rogue units hiding in the bushes. And Mariner gives makes you not subject to the -4 strength ability when you go onto boats. Okay. And just before we end this video, I was talking about getting more casting points, and that is from, oh, okay, we don't have it here yet. Let's see, Great Temple. See there, it says it leads to the Grand Palace. So the Grand Palace gives you an extra 10 casting points, and the Grand Palace needs about 6 or 7 different buildings for you to get to it. I will put a link in the description where a forumite has created a really, really professional looking chart that leads to the Grand Palace. So you've got all the different buildings, and it's nice and color coded and things, so it looks really good. But basically, yeah, the Grand Palace gives you an extra 10 casting points. You can put that on multiple cities, and your casting points go up and up and up. Another guy on the forum said they got it as high as 250, and probably including the +50 from the Sorcerer. So that's kind of impressive. So yep, guys, we're going to leave it here, and in the next video we shall cover the Theocrat. So I'll see you guys there.